Hello everyone and welcome back to mountmoontcg. Today's episode, I'm going to be taking a look at what I believe are the top 10 cards from the upcoming mini set Shrouded Fable. Now, this mini set should be released on August 2nd here in the United States. So, go out to your local retail store, get some Shrouded Fable packs, open them up because there are some pretty cool cards in this mini set that we do need to talk about. Now, doing this a little bit different than I normally do. This time, I'm going to have the cards right here on the screen. As you can see, I'm not going to be in my corner and just kind of going off the cuff, as it were. No, I'm going to have the actual, what the card name is, the translation in front of me, so that way I can not stumble over my words. So we're giving this a try. These translations come from the website justinbasil.com. A pretty cool Pokemon site for if you're interested in what's going to be coming up in the next set, what's doing well in Japan, decks that are doing well, anything like that. Go check out justinbasil.com. It's a really cool Pokemon site. So with that being said, let's move on to our top 10 list. And at number 10, we got Binding Mochi. Now this is a Pokemon tool card, and it says that attacks used by the poison Pokemon this card is attached to do 40 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon before applying weakness and resistance. Now, this can be really good because 40 can start to hit some of these big numbers that we will see in some of these cards a little bit later. But if you have a Pokemon that only hits for, let's say, 190 damage, you can have this Binding Mochi, somehow get your active Pokemon poisoned. We will talk about that in a little bit later down the list. Spoiler alert. But if you hit for 190, you have this Binding Mochi, you're poisoned, you can hit for 230, which seems to be the magical number for hitting some of these basic EXs, some older Pokemon V, things like that. This could also hit, some of these bigger numbers too, like if you have a Pokemon that hits for 260, could hit for 300, could knock out other EXs, but I think the magical number you want to hit is 310, so 270 I think is kind of the number. But I digress. Binding Mochi is a very interesting tool card, and this will flow in some decks that I will talk about a little bit down the line. But Binding Mochi here at number 10, pretty interesting tool card if I do say so myself. Alright, then next up at number 9, we got Xerosic's Machinations. I almost said mechanics, but Xerosic's Machinations. Support a card that says your opponent discards cards from their hand until they have 3 cards in their hand. Now, this is a very interesting supporter card because this is going to be seen some play in some stall decks, maybe even some milling decks. Because if your opponent has a huge hand of, like, let's say 10 cards, they have to discard 7 of them. 7 cards that could be very useful to them that they don't want to discard, but they have to because you play Xerosic's Machinations. Am I pronouncing that right? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Machinations? I digress, though. Yeah, this can be a very interesting supporter card. I don't know if it's going to get seen in too many decks outside of, like, control decks, stall decks, mill decks, anything like that. So Snorlax Stall could see this card come into play. We will just have to wait and see. It's a very interesting card, very annoying card. I put it here at number 9 because it's not going to go in every single deck, but it's a very interesting card nonetheless. The next up at number 8, we got Ogie Dogie EX. It's a fun name to say. There's a lot of cool cards in the set that have really cool names like this. So this is a basic Pokemon with 250 HP. It's got 2 attacks. The first attack for colorless energy, Poisonous I can't pronounce words today. I do apologize. Poisonous Musculature. I only read at a 3rd grade level, as I established on this channel many times. But search your deck for up to 2 basic dark energy cards and attach them to this Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. If you attach energy to a Pokemon in this way, this Pokemon is now poisoned. So This is a great way to energy accelerate, especially if it's your first turn going second and your opponent doesn't have a lot of steam going their way. Might not have, their deck set up until like turn 2 or turn 3, turn 4, whatever. This could give you a way to accelerate some energy onto your Okie Dokie EX. If you don't want to play stuff like Dark Patch, I know Dark Patch is still in the format. It's gotten a little forgotten about because Dark Pokemon haven't really been seeing a lot of play, but there is a lot of cards in this set that is going to help Dark decks out and maybe be viable again. I'm crossing my fingers, hopefully they are. I love Dark decks. The only problem with this attack as well, if you do get knocked out, it's kind of a waste of some more energy that you accelerated onto it. So hopefully this Okie Dokie can stay alive long enough for you to attack with the second attack, Chain Crazed. For 2 darkness, 1 colorless energy, it does 130 plus. Now if this Pokemon is poisoned, which it probably will be from the first attack, because you had to poison it to attach energy from the deck to this Pokemon. This Pokemon is poisoned, this attack does 130 more damage. So, that's 260 damage. Now, pair this up with the Binding Mochi that I talked about earlier, you're hitting for 300 damage. Now, I believe most Stage 2 EXs are 310, 320, 330, maybe 330. I can't remember off the top of my head what Charizard, maybe they are 330. I think I misspoke earlier. Gardevoir is 310, but you're knocking out Gardevoir anyhow because it's weak to dark. But any future Stage 2 EXs that come along, you're going to be pretty close to knocking them out. I know we also have Brute Bonnet still in the format that can poison your opponent's active Pokemon and your active Pokemon as well if it has an Ancient Tool card attached. So that is one way that you could poison your active Pokemon and poison your opponent's active Pokemon too. So if it is a 310 HP Pokemon, Chain Crazed, you're poisoned, your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, you're doing essentially 310. So there is a couple of ways around it, but this can hit for a lot of damage here. So Okie Dokie is going to see some play in these dark decks. I'm really excited about. There's more darkness Pokemon to talk about. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Okie Dokie is going to be sitting here at number 8. And then up at number 7, we have Dartrix. Now you might be saying to yourself, a Dartrix, not the Decidueye? Why is the Dartrix so good? Well, Dartrix here has got this United Wings attack. Now, United Wings came out, like 4 sets ago? Something like that. At least a year ago. And United Wings has been okay. It hasn't, it's fallen by the wayside just because it doesn't hit for enough damage. And also, it just didn't hit the weaknesses that you need it to hit. This Dartrix helps with that. Because what's one of the best cards in the format right now? Charizard EX. What is Charizard EX weak to? Grass. Ergo, this Dartrix hits for a crucial weakness that you need to hit in the Pokemon trading card game right now. So of course, we all know United Wings does 20 plus 20 more for each Pokemon in your discard pile that has the United Wings. So there's the Flamigo, there's the Wattrel, I believe it is, the basic of Kilowattrel. There is, oh boy, what, Murkrow. There's a few other United Wings cards to work for this deck. But the bad part about Dartrix is it is a stage 1. I wish it was a basic. Basic would be amazing. But the flip side is you only need 1 energy. So that's kind of nice. So, this Dartrix could bring some life back to the United Wings deck. It was a deck that I played a little bit of. It's a fun deck. It hits for this crucial weakness to hopefully take down these Charizard EX decks. We'll just have to wait and see. But for right now, I think Dartrix at number 7 is a good spot for it. And then next up at number 6, we have Perturant EX. It's a 190 HP Pokemon, and it's got a very fun ability. Once during your turn, you may switch one of your benched Darkness Pokemon, except any Perturant EX. So you can't switch this Pokemon with your active Pokemon. If you do, the new active Pokemon is now poisoned. You can't use more than one Subjugating Chains ability each turn. So this is another way that you can poison your active Pokemon. Now this is probably best run in a darkness deck, but I mean, you can put it in different decks. Like you can put it in Charizard decks, because Charizard EX is a darkness type Pokemon. If you need to somehow get that, that extra switch card in your deck somehow. I don't know if Charizard would play this, but I'm saying you can do something like that. Of course, this will pair with the Okidogi we talked about earlier, where you need to poison the Okidogi to do more damage, and then you have Binding Mochi to do more damage. You see where I'm going with this. So yeah, anyhow, short range for Darkness Pokemon to the active spot. It's poisoned. There we go. And then for 2 Darkness Energy, Irritated Outburst, it does 60 times the each prize card your opponent has taken. So if your opponent has taken 5 prize cards, that would be, can I do quick math here? That'd be 300 damage. 300 damage, yeah. 60, 120. I gotta use my fingers to do math. 60, 120, 240, 300. Yeah, I can do simple math. I know what I'm doing. 300 damage for 2 Darkness Energy. Pretty darn good if I do say so myself. And then if you have the Mochi on it, which you can't put in the active because you can't poison this. Brute Bonnet. There you go. That's how you can poison this Pertrant. Yeah, you can do 300 damage, 340 if you got the Binding Mochi, and it's poisoned. So that should be enough to one-shot anything in the current format. Yeah, a very interesting card. It's going to be very good in these dark decks. So there you go. There is Pertrant, and now we're going to move on to the next one. The next up at number 5, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, number 5 here. We got this Kyurem. Now, Kyurem has the Plasma Bane attack. If your opponent has any cards in their discard pile that have Colress in the name, this Pokemon can use the Trifrost attack for 1 colorless energy. Now, let's keep in mind that a very popular deck right now is the Lost Box Engine. That has Comfey, that has the Colress's Experiment. Colress's Experiment is a Colress. So there we go. So this can be really good against these Lost Box decks. So, what does the attack do? So Trifrost, normally it's 2 water, 2 metal, and a colorless, 5 energy. Yikes, we don't want to do that. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. Now this is interesting, because being able to do 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon can be really, really good. Like I said, if you're going against the Lost Box Engine, you can knock out 3 Comfeys, 2 Comfeys and a Cramorant, Sableye. They play a lot of Pokemon that have, very, very low HP. Of course, there is a big downfall to this, and that is if you're going against a deck that doesn't play Colress, then this Kyurem is kind of not very good. So that's the only downside about it. There is another Colress card in this set that's not quite as good. It searches for a Stadium and an Energy card. It's not as good. The Colress Experiment is better. There are some other decks that do put like 1 or 2 Colress Experiment in their deck. Just like 1 or 2 of. But if your opponent knows that you're playing, let's say something like a Regidrago deck that can copy the attacks of the Pokemon in the discard pile, then they're going to go, okay, maybe don't play the 1 or 2 Colress I have in the deck, so we don't get hit by Kyurem. Also, there is Manaphy still in the format, which prevents damage done to your benched Pokemon by your opponent's attacks. So you would have to get like a Canceling Cologne to bring the Manaphy up, and then be like, okay, I can hit your bench now because your Manaphy has no abilities. This can work. This can be an amazing card. We will have to wait and see. Like I said, it's going to be good in Regidrago decks. Another card that I'll go for an honorable mention. Another card that can be really good in these Regidrago decks is, of course, this Haxorus card. Now, this is an honorable mention, but I thought I'd bring it up right now while I'm talking about Kyurem. Haxorus has the Bring Down the Axe attack. If your opponent's Pokemon has any special energy attached to it, it's knocked out. Wow, this is Beedrill all over again. For those of you that remember I think it was the single strike Beedrill. That was pretty decent. That saw some play. Yeah, so Regidrago has a couple more pieces to potentially, take over the format. Oh yeah, this just basically beats Lugia, I would assume. And it's only for 1 energy. Not too bad. You can even build a whole deck around Haxorus if you really want to. 2 energy, 230, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. It's okay. But either way, we got Kyurem here. Kyurem, right here, in at number 5. And next up at number 4, we have Janine's Secret Art. It is a supporter card that states, choose up to 2 of your Darkness Pokemon. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a basic Darkness Energy card and attach it to that Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. If you attached energy to your active Pokemon in this way, it is now poisoned. Now, this is another good way to get some energy acceleration onto your cards like your Ogie Dogie, your Monkey Dories, your Perchurants, whatever Darkness Pokemon you have. So remember when I talked about the Perchurant? What was it? The Perchurant right here? And I said it's going to be maybe a little bit hard to get it poisoned? Well, not anymore, because now you got the Janine's Secret Art. So if your Perchurant's in the active spot, you play this, and then if you attach energy to your active Pokemon in this way, it is now poisoned. But this can also be good to you can choose 2 benched Pokemon, and then your active doesn't have to be poisoned. So maybe you can play this in something else with like Darkrai V-Star, for example. I know, I've been talking about Darkness Pokemon. I have not brought up Darkrai V-Star yet. And Darkrai V-Star does more damage for how many Darkness energies are in play. But Janine is just really good to accelerate 2 energy. We've seen cards like this before. Like we've seen our Gardenia, we have seen a Welder, but those drew a couple of cards when you attached energy. We all know that energy acceleration is pretty good. It can be broken if it combos right. And also this kind of fits with the theme of these dark decks and poison. So it's just perfect for these Ogie Dogies, Perchurants, Monkey Dories, etc., etc. This is just really good. I'm really excited for this card and some more Darkness Pokemon that will come out after this. A mini set comes out. I'm really excited. I just want to try Darkrai V-Star, so it might be a little higher than some of you might put it, but it's a really, really good supporter card in my opinion. So yeah, Janine's Secret Art, he is here at number 4. And then next up at number 3, we have Night Stretcher. Now, when this was first released, I thought we were bringing back Rescue Stretcher. I was sadly mistaken, but it is still a very good item card. And it states you put a Pokemon or basic energy card from your discard pile into your hand. So, it'll make you think if you want to play this card or a card like Super Rod. Where Super Rod, you shuffle the combination of 3 Pokemon and basic energies into the deck. But here, you get to put one of those back into your hand. So if there's a stage 2 you really need, like another Gardevoir EX, you can put it back into your hand. If you need another Charizard EX, put it back into your hand, whatever. If you need a energy for your Raging Bolt deck to maybe draw 1 or 2 more cards with Greninja or the Ogerpon, you got Night Stretcher. This can go into pretty much any deck. It can find you the pieces that you really need. Yeah, it's any Pokemon. Basic, stage 1, stage 2, basic energy, so it can fit into any deck. So I think we should see this played in most decks going forward. And then next up, for number 1 and number 2, I did debate on what I wanted to do. I'm actually kind of debating now if I want to change my mind right now, because it is my list. I'm changing my mind right now. I'm changing my mind right now because I don't like to go. I like to go against the norm, and I've watched a lot of people make their top 10 list, and they put a card at number 1 that I think it's still a good card. Don't get me wrong. I still think it's a good card. But I think the other card is better. So I'm changing my mind at the last moment. Number 2, I'm putting Frenziedipity EX. Now, don't get me wrong. If you think this card should be number 1, that's awesome. I can't hate you for that fact. I don't hate people in general, but I can't hate you for having the opinion that this should be the number 1 card. I like this card, but I think I just like the other cards a lot more. It could be biased too. We'll wait and see. But Frenziedipity EX is a basic Pokemon with the ability Flip the Script. Once during your turn, if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you may draw 3 cards. You can't use more than one Flip the Script ability each turn. And it's also kind of a nice name for an ability because I literally just flipped the script. Okay. I hope you like that joke. And there's proof. See, I put this in the number 1 spot. It was going to be number 1. I literally just flipped the script. But this is very similar to an Oricorio GX card that we had back in the Sun and Moon era. But here's the problem with that. I don't remember it seeing that much play. Now, if it's such a good card to draw 3 cards, and believe me, drawing 3 cards for free it's great. The attacks weren't that good on the Oricorio GX. This card has a better attack. For 3 energy, it does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. That's cool. It can knock out something, like a Comfey I talked about earlier. But we still have Manaphy. And a lot of decks are going to be playing Manaphy, especially if you're playing, these Charizard EX decks, Pidgeot EX decks, Lost Box decks. Because people are going to start to hit the bench now. So now, it's a decent attack. 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, but Manaphy's in play still. Maybe when Manaphy rotates, maybe this card will see more play. But still, drawing 3 cards is great. It's wonderful, and it fits with the dark theme of this mini set. The Okidogi, Petrant, Monkey Dory. There's a lot of good things going for Darkness Pokemon going forward after this mini set. But I just think there's one thing better. At number 1, we have Dusclops and Dusknoir. Now, I could be biased because I love Dusknoir. Dusknoir is one of my favorite Ghost-type Pokemon. And here's the thing. Over in Japan, one of the best decks right now is Charizard Dusknoir. And it gave Charizard some new life. And I think that new life that it gives to Charizard is enough to warrant it a number 1 spot. Because Charizard Dusknoir is an odds-on favorite to win the World Championships. It's that good. It could take up 4 or 5 spots in the top 8. We'll wait and see, but I think it is. I think it's this dominant, and I'll tell you why. We will start at the Dusclops. It's got the ability Cursed Blast. Once during your turn, you may put 5 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you use this ability, this Pokemon is knocked out. It's very similar to Dusknoir, but Dusknoir is 13 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, why does this work so well with Charizard? Number 1, your Charizard EX does more damage for how many prize cards your opponent has taken. Okay, this is a way to beef up your Charizard's attacks. Also, you're putting 5 to 13 damage counters on your opponent's deck to Pokemon. Or any Pokemon for that matter. So you can Boss's Orders up a big Pokemon on your opponent's side of the bench, Cursed Blast to it, and then Charizard do some things. Okay. So it beefs up the Charizard's attacks. There's also cards like Counter Catcher that you can play in your deck to capitalize on the fact that you're essentially giving your opponent prize cards. Because cards like Counter Catcher only work when you're behind on prizes. So if you knock out, let's say, 1 or 2 Dustclops, and then your opponent has 4 prize cards remaining, you have 5 prize cards remaining. Not only are you doing more damage with Charizard, not only are you putting damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon, you're using cards that are kind of broken, like Counter Catcher, because you need to be behind on prizes. I hope this is making sense to you guys, because I love the Dustclops and Dusknoir. Now, don't get me wrong, when I first read these 2 cards, I thought it was put the damage counters wherever you wanted to on the field, and that would be just absolutely broken. But the fact that you could evolve to Dusknoir, you have 2 Dusknoirs in play, essentially put 26 damage counters on one Pokemon if you really want to, a knockout, say something like a... I'm trying to think, just like a bigger EX, like, let's, where is it? Not Kyurem, not Petrant, like Ogie Dogie. If you use 2 Dusknoir to put 26 damage counters on Ogie Dogie, you could take 2 prizes there. Your opponent has taken 2 prize cards, your Charizard does more damage, so then you can knock out another big, like, Ogie Dogie or something. There's just ways around this. There's ways that Charizard can be really good. And the fun thing is they're still playing cards like Pidgeot EX. They're essentially running 3 Stage 2 Pokemon, and it works. It just works. I don't know how it works. It baffles my mind. But also the fact you can still play Dusknoir with like any other type of deck that needs to, get just a couple more damage counters in play. You could just run the Dustclops, put 5 more damage counters somewhere, and then just hit something else for knockout. There's just ways you can alter the game, and it seems it seems pretty good to me. I hope you guys kind of understand where I'm going with this Charizard idea, but I think this Dustclops Dusknoir makes Charizard so good that it's going to be annoying again. Charizard is back. We need to accept that fact. I don't like it, but I think that's just the fact of going forward into the World Championships. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is my list. Do you like the list at all? Are there changes that you'd make to the list? Do you think that... what do you think I left off the list? What would you have placed at number 1? What would you have placed at number 10? I would love to see your list down in the comment section down below. But everyone, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. Go get your Shrouded Fable packs. They are available today, August the 2nd. And I'll see you next time here on Mount Moon TCG.